In July 1969, humans landed on the moon for the first time as a part of the Apollo 11 mission. But why haven't we been back since the Apollo 17 mission in 1972? Let's find out the answers in this video. The Apollo 11 moon landing in July 1969 was a massive achievement of human beings, engineering, and science. It was a time that the world had been waiting for. Apollo 11 was followed by 6 additional outings to the moon, out of which 5 were dubbed as a great success. There were a total of 12 men who walked on the lunar surface. But in 1970, future Apollo missions were terminated. Apollo 17 became the last manned mission to the moon for an endless amount of time. The main reason for this thing was money. The last manned mission to the moon was Apollo 17, taking place between 7 and 19 December 1972. It was a 12-day journey that broke multiple records, including the longest spacewalk, the longest lunar landing, and the largest lunar samples brought back to Earth. Harrison H. Schmitt was the lunar module pilot, as well as being a geologist. He was joined by Ronald E. Evans as command module pilot and Eugene Cernan as mission commander. Apollo 17 was the only Apollo mission which didn't send any astronauts who had been tested as pilots. After the revocation of Apollo 18, the Apollo mission Schmitt had initially intended to go on, the scientific community lobbied that he be put onto Apollo 17. While manned missions to go to the moon have ended, research into the moon and trips to space still take place. There are also upcoming plans for journeys to the moon. NASA's Artemis program also seeks to return to the moon by 2024 and set up a maintained human presence that would allow us to regularly visit our celestial neighbor. The pursuit to land humans on the moon was started by President John F. Kennedy's 1962 speech at Rice Stadium in Houston, Texas, which is now popular as the "We Choose to Go to the Moon" speech. In the speech, Kennedy also talked about a human to walk on the moon by the end of the decade. He said, "And this will be done in the decade of the 60s. It may be done while some of you are still here at school at this college and university. It will be done during the term of office of some of the people who sit here on this platform, but it will be done, and it will be done before the end of this decade." When the moon landing took place in 1969, Kennedy's promise was fulfilled and his deadline was also satisfied. However, when the goal was achieved, NASA faced massive funding cuts, which made the future of the Apollo missions untenable. There had been 20 Apollo missions planned, but technical and research-based missions were not seen as valuable as the accomplishment of the moon landing itself, and the final 3 missions were also canceled. While the US government was ready to put a lot of money into the Apollo missions when it was useful to the space race, research and technical development were not respected as a preference. Apollo 11 was a political statement in the center of the space race, and once it had been made, the requirement for additional missions to the moon was gone. NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine also brought out this thing when he described the space race. He said, "This was a contest of political philosophies. It was a contest of economic philosophies. It was a contest of technological prowess. And in this great contest of great strengths, the United States of America was determined to win." Going to the moon was quite expensive. Initially, Kennedy's government had calculated it to be around $7 billion, but in the end, the total cost was $20 billion. There was also limited nationwide support. The Apollo missions had all taken place against the surroundings of civil violence in the US, and the big amounts of money being spent on space travel also became a point of argument for the American public. As the Cold War melted, the Strategic Arms Limitations talks meant that missile production contained those which were used for space travel and were drastically decreased. While the Apollo mission saw astronauts live on the moon for just a few days at a time, trips to the moon in the 21st century used to focus more on the invention of lunar bases or satellites. Bridenstine illustrates how the future of lunar travel is about a sustained presence on the moon. According to him, this time when we go to the moon we're going to stay. That's what we're looking to do. But when was the last time we went to space? Well, we haven't put a human on the lunar surface since the 1970s, but there are some regular missions to space. Here are some of them. Skylab 1973 to 1974. Skylab was the main space station managed and operated by NASA. It operated between May 1973 and February 1974, and also had a workshop, an observatory, and carried out hundreds of tests. Development and additional use of Skylab was also delayed due to issues with developing the space shuttle. Eventually, the orbital decay of Skylab could not be ended. Orbital decay is also the gradual decrease of distance between two objects in orbit of each other. Space Shuttle 1981 to 2011. NASA's Space Shuttle allowed satellites to be launched and come back to Earth. The crewed spacecraft enabled NASA to travel to reclaim broken satellites, fix them, and send them back into space. The Space Shuttle was also instrumental in the growth of the ISS. International Space Station. The International Space Station, or ISS, is a continuously inhabited artificial satellite in low Earth orbit. It is a joint project between the USA, Russia, Japan, Europe, and Canada. Astronauts aboard the ISS carry out different experiments and live on the station for almost 6 months. With that being said, it's time to end our today's video. Press the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stuff. Peace.